Welcome to NFL Daily, where we know it's important to not let the man leave the building. I'm Gregg Rosenthal. I'm here in the Chris Wesseling podcast studio with my friends Jourdan, Rodrigue, and Colleen Wolfe, making all sorts of gestures.
Note to self, don't let the man leave the building.
Yeah, can't let them out of the building.
Well, that's what I've learned in this coaching search. If you really want to hire someone, you just don't let them leave. We heard that, like, Atlanta, Kevin Stefanski got there. They didn't let him. Well, they did let him leave the building, but then he went to Arthur Blank's house, and Arthur Blank cooked steaks for him, apparently. Wow. And then Jeff Hafley, Dolphins, didn't let him leave the building. Robert Saleh, he actually tried to leave the building, but they just locked it everywhere, and it turned into this weird sort of horror movie. But eventually, they hired him.
He didn't just cook steaks for him; he cooked Joe Thomas steaks.
No way!
Seriously.
Yeah, I thought that was a joke. I think Joe Thomas
using the promo code.
Joe Thomas
Wolfe
said he was joking
20.
about being a part of the coaching staff. I don't know that he was joking. Yeah, and we have a promo code if you're interested.
No. Yeah, Wolfe 20, everybody. I feel like they need to basically take the coaching candidates' phones when they come in the building, sort of like a concert or a comedy show or something like that, and then they won't be able to leave because you can't go anywhere without your phone, right, Gregg? Where's your phone right now?
It's right in my pocket.
Is it?
And is it not?
Is it?
Someone took it.
Gregg?
You have it?
Who found your phone out in the hallway?
Oh no!
Reveal right here.
Well, who would steal permanently a phone with such a lovely family
That's
picture
why you weren't
at the
mad
LA
that I was
Zoo?
late because you didn't get my text.
Quab, is that your phone? We're just literally at the water cooler talking, and he picks it. He's like, "Yeah, oh my God, wait, no, this is Gregg's family."
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You know,
this is Gregg's family.
I was making some coffee. We've had a lot of shows before. I guess I just left it out by the coffee maker. But we are going to talk those head coach hirings. Yes. We got a lot of news. We got coaches hiring, but we also have an off-season look ahead. It was kind of bothering me mentioning I've been doing a lot of shows lately. Daniel Jeremiah, one of my foremost frenemies on earth. We've been looking at every single team that's eliminated from playoff contention and kind of breaking down like what they need to do, big picture this offseason, free agency, all that stuff. And I realized because we did the NFC last week, we never hit the 49ers and Bears. And that really bothered me because these teams are important and they just lost. So we're actually going to do a little offseason look ahead for the 49ers and Bears. And then at the end of the show, we're getting close to the offseason because we're going to do a little recommendation station and find out what Colleen Wolfe and Jourdan Rodrigue are imbibing. Although I feel like, I don't know if Jourdan is. Are you doing anything? You got anything?
No.
I feel like you're just flying around. Maybe we'll hear a little bit about what it was like to be at an epic Bears game as well.
Looking forward to powering on down there, Gregg.
Just staring at a wall sounds awesome. That's my recommendation.
We are exactly 2 weeks from leaving for San Francisco and eventually Santa Clara later in that week for the Super Bowl. But we have a lot of head coach hirings. Robert Saleh, let's start with him. It comes out late Tuesday night, even late on the West Coast, that he is the next head coach of the Tennessee Titans. We don't have a press conference or anything like that yet, but I did find it interesting how this all went down. Reports that he was meeting with the Cardinals, was a finalist for the Cardinals job. And so the Titans, they did what 3 teams before them did to them. They did not let him leave the building. The Titans literally were used as leverage as kind of the other team in all the 3 hirings that we've already covered on the show. Harbaugh, Stefanski, and who am I forgetting here? I guess it was Hafley because that was before. We haven't covered that on the show, but that was before this. And they made sure that Robert Saleh was the next Titans head coach. They weren't going to come in second place anymore.
I feel like it has some Mike Rabel vibes, this hiring. And I don't know if that's just because it's like too...
The one that got away.
Defensive,
that they cut
like
from them
yoked up dudes. Yeah, exactly. But the number one question is going to be who he hires as his offensive coordinator to develop Cam Ward. And day by day, these offensive coordinators are getting snatched up because so many people are not letting them out of the building. And I feel like we need to let them out of the building.
Oh.
Like this might be a situation where it's like a hostage negotiation to get people out of the building. But looking at just some potential options here, it would be interesting if, Brian Daboll, obviously, if he doesn't go for a Bills head coaching job or a head coaching job somewhere else, if he doesn't get the OC job in Philadelphia, maybe that could be a situation. Obviously, Cliff Kingsbury or Mike McDaniel. But the thing that I'm most excited about, that's the most important thing, but what I'm most excited about is the games between the Titans and the Jags and a chance to see Robert Saleh and Liam Cohen on the same field again after going at it on the field before and accusations of sign stealing and everything else. I love it.
I'm glad you brought that up. We do have some sound of Liam Cohen and Robert Saleh's interaction on the field for you, Colleen.
Yes!
Little surprise from back in week 4. Got some coaches just...
Hold me back.
So we can't really hear them there, but if you're watching, you see them yelling at each other. Though Liam Cohen, yells from a far distance before getting taken away. And the clip included Liam Cohen saying, "Keep my name out your mouth."
Love it.
Keep my name out my bleeping mouth.
And they made T-shirts.
And which I think they made a misstep there. Saleh's response, because it felt like Liam Cohen's, saying was a little planned. Saleh's response out of nowhere, not expecting that to come, was, "I will bleep your world up. You don't want to bleep with me. I will bleeping end your bleeping life."
What?
Love it. It actually hurts me to even say bleeping there instead of the actual words, because that is just quite a moment there by Robert Saleh. Now we get him twice a year.
Yes, and Robert Saleh, who was a runner-up, if not the runner-up, for the Jacksonville Jaguars head coaching job.
Ooh.
Listen, here's the thing, guys. It all comes back to this take for me. We need real hate in coaching.
Yes,
we do. We're seeing the rejuvenation of these rivalries with Ben Johnson and the tree, right? And then we're seeing this with Robert Saleh and Liam Cohen, which again, there's so many layers between the tree and the rivalries within the tree.
They're offshoots within the tree, essentially.
And it's the saplings, if you will, and it's so fun to me that we get this, because coaches are themselves a brand in ways that we have really not seen predominantly across the league. You've seen outliers over time, right? Especially legendary outliers, or maybe the quirkier coaches who do win games. Now, being a coach in the NFL, you are a recognizable figure. You are a brand. You are, and a lot of these guys are playing right into that, in being like the real hate guy on the team. And I love that. I think that's good for the sport. I think it's good for the league. I think it is fantastic, especially seeing, these guys in the off season and how they all interact. And a lot of them have the same friends and all this stuff.
The combine's coming up soon, guys.
Owners meeting will be great.
And so that's the thing. I love it. I think this is great for the sport. I think it is the irony of Tennessee going after Robert Saleh, who I think is a great coach, has been a great defensive coordinator, had several missteps as a coach, and obviously organizational infrastructure in New York was a mess as well. But I love this because the irony is clear to me that they could never get Mike Vrabel again, so they bring a personality type of a Mike Vrabel.
Well, that was what the reporting said, too, that Amy Adams-Strunk was kind of looking for a Vrabel type, and I'm just thinking...
You had the original.
She has a type.
But it was also... you'll appreciate this, too, Greg, because I know you like looking at the layers on all of these things, is like, there was also reporting that, Amy Adams-Strunk was the one who... But then it came out very strongly in a second wave of reporting that this was Borgonzi who made the hire and he did the convincing.
Well, yeah.
And all, it's
I want to get specific on that.
Yeah.
So the... scuttlebutt was that this was going to be Matt Nagy's job. Matt Nagy worked with Borgonzi in Kansas City. A lot of people believe that throughout. When it comes out that Robert Saleh gets the job, and Nagy and Saleh were literally the only two that met in person with the Titans. In fact, Nagy was in the building earlier in the same day. Mm-hmm. They let him out of the building.
Wow.
And then they brought Saleh in. and to be fair, they maybe even the timing of it, what
if they crossed each other?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I'm picturing. It's like double booking is dangerous.
Because I can kind of imagine Saleh saying I'll bleep your world up too. I will. Don't with me. I'll end your life. I can't believe he said that. That's amazing. Sorry.
It's so aggressive. Like
so much.
It's like if you pull a prank on someone and then they come back and actually like beat the shit out of you, and it's like, whoa, that was an overcorrection. Maybe I don't know.
Because I want to get back to the reporting, but it has stuck in my head ever since I heard Bomani Jones talk about that Liam Cohen thing. Like he got so surprised that Liam Cohen turned out to be such a great coach, because between that and the Duval, he just thought Liam Cohen was too corny to work. And it is true. I don't think you can really learn that you're not a guy to say, keep my name out your mouth, like keep my name out your mouth until you say it. Oh. And the fact that they made t-shirts indicates maybe he still hasn't learned that, but I don't think he is that guy, unfortunately. And then Saleh now has a chance to put him in.
Listen, all I'm saying is between that moment and the end of the season, his team became AFC South champions.
Yes.
He dropped about 20 pounds and got real cool at the podium.
Oh,
so, all I'm saying is sometimes you need a little pep in your step, right?
I noticed this as well.
A little pep in your step here.
I love that. So ESPN, Teron Davenport, put in the article from Adam Schefter, who first broke the story, that Amy Adams Strunk essentially pushed them to hire Saleh. That kind of influenced Borgonzi in the room instead of taking the guy that he wanted, Nagy. Within an hour, they delete that and change the story. And then I see all the other stories out, which go really hard in the paint to show how much Saleh changed this, GM's mind. And when I read all of this, I'm not giving the Titans the benefit of the doubt. They've been one of the most dysfunctional franchises in the NFL. And this probably is the right hire. It's the hire I'd be more excited about. And so that's great. But to me, it seems like a very calculated effort to get out through the media that no, we're all aligned. We were all aligned on the same decision, and which is never a great way to start the whole thing.
God, just get it together, gang. Come on.
Yeah, it's interesting though. Saleh, his defenses were awesome with the Jets. So you can't question that. He gets a fun linebacker in Cedric Gray. You have Jeffrey Simmons. It was interesting that they got Jeffrey Simmons and Cam Ward on the phone right after they decided to hire Saleh. I guess the concern would be, we'll see who we can get as offensive coordinator. He didn't really have an answer for that there. He's great at coaching up players, but when he didn't have the players this year and they had great effort and they overachieved, but they weren't a great defense. And so you're going to have to get him the players, because it's not about scheme. I think when it comes to Saleh, it's about kind of the position by position coaching and fundamentals and in the big picture.
If Robert Saleh gave us the best coaching quote of the year, Cam Ward gave us the best player quote of the year early when he said, "We ass." So I feel like this is a match made in heaven in terms of personality. Both of those guys want to win bad. Robert Saleh believes in himself. I caught up with him at training camp over the summer. He was ready to get another shot. He wasn't burned out. He knows what went wrong last time. He wants to fix those things. I would say a little bit more, keeping things a little bit more inside out versus worrying about the narrative would probably serve him really well this time around. And I also think that getting your offensive coordinator right is so important. There are reports out there by multiple outlets that he impressed the Titans brass with his plan and his vision for developing Cam Ward, understanding you're going to need to bring that very clearly if you're a defensive coach coming in for a head coaching vacancy where the quarterback has already been put into place. But it's going to be interesting because, my colleague at The Athletic, Diana Orsini, reported this morning that it's going to be tight. There's going to be opportunities for Mike McDaniel, for Arthur Smith, for Brian Daboll, who I don't necessarily see as a fit with Robert Saleh anyway, personality-wise. And then there's people who would have been great candidates, such as Mike LaFleur, but people forget that Mike LaFleur was the fall guy for Robert Saleh last time. As close as their families are, Robert Saleh and Matt LaFleur are best friends. The LaFleurs and the Salehs are very, very close, but still, you don't forget being put in a position like that. And Mike LaFleur, I know, is very, very happy being in Los Angeles. Who wouldn't be? But the other part of this is there's going to be a bidding war for a lot of these other top play calling candidates on the offensive side. So to me, a little bit of a shaky start all around for a coach who is very well known for going in with clarity, with personality, with really winning the room, and that's what is part of makes him such a great coach. But a little bit of a shaky start infrastructurally so far. We'll have to see how it plays out.
I wonder if Gus Bradley will go over there with him because they were in San Francisco together.
Well, we know who's not going to be allowed to go over there.
Yes, we actually have Kyle Shanahan was asked about Clay Kubiak potentially becoming someone else's offensive coordinator.
Would you let Kubiak go if it was a lateral move, if he had a play calling role as an offensive coordinator?
No. he calls a lot of plays here, so he's our offensive coordinator. So I don't know why we just let him be someone else's offensive coordinator.
Oh,
I knew that was going to be good. I love it so much.
I love that. We'll see who Saleh can get. I'm not too worried, but if he's saying he learned everything from before, if I was going to pick like an organization most similar to the Jets in terms of the job that you're taking, where sometimes it's a little out of your control, the Titans might be that job. The difference is he has a really good quarterback this time around. Jeff Hafley does not. So we'll find out who is the Dolphins starting quarterback this year. It is almost certainly not going to be Tua Tagovailoa. He's expected to get cut or traded, but Jeff Hafley has made the rise from defensive coordinator for the first time just 2 years ago for the Green Bay Packers to head coach of the Miami Dolphins, a connection a lot of people made when John Eric Sullivan got the GM job. Both him and Hafley obviously worked together in Green Bay, so they're both in their first time in the big chair. Now, Jeff Hafley was a head coach at Boston College. Everyone's given him a pass. That's a really tough place to win. Not a lot of extra money at Boston College, but he did go 22-26. And I've seen plenty of college teams without a lot of money win games. So I think that's a fair thing to point out.
It's a tough place to win, and turns out it was a tough place to win. Yeah,
right. And
he didn't win very much.
Right, exactly. So he got extra credit that he was somewhat competitive. They were bowl eligible, which there is better than average. That should be pointed out. His defenses in Green Bay were fine. Got a lot of love from kind of the film watching community as being a creative defense. Fell apart when Micah Parsons left, but kind of a clean slate. It's always really hard to know which of these head coaching hires are going to work and which won't. So I tend to not have huge, strong takes going into it. His is just more okay, I believe it. He must be great in a room too, like Robert Saleh.
Must be.
Because a lot of this is who's good at interviewing. And Saleh, it does not shock me. All the reporting is he was just great in that interview. That Borgonzi, if you're believing the reporting, was that he wanted Nagy, but Saleh was just so good in the interview that he got the job, and Hafley is apparently really impressive. A lot of people who know him well say a lot of great things about him.
Well, think about what you would want in a head coach for a team. You want a motivational speaker. You want someone who's going to have charisma and who can carry the room and have that energy when they walk into the room, because they're going to have so many players from different backgrounds and just different personalities all follow this one person. So that makes sense to me in terms of his actual scheme and how things will pan out. He's a wide nine guy. So Chop Robinson maybe ends up benefiting from this, just thinking about the way that he plays a little bit. I don't know. I mean, I think that this is a nice pairing for Jeff.
Yeah. What you hear about what John Eric Sullivan really liked about him, and John Eric Sullivan has watched for 20 years people come and go in and out of that Packers building because he worked his way up from an intern in that building and watched the regime changes and watched the dynamics with all the different coaches. And he was the one that he wanted. Hafley was the one that he wanted. I would say that he's probably one of Matt LaFleur's better coaching hires, and certainly on defense that Matt LaFleur has made. And this is, I think, a bigger question for the Green Bay Packers moving forward about what Matt LaFleur is going to do infrastructurally, especially with an organization that does not have a stellar reputation of paying assistant coaches competitive money to bring in some of the best people into those jobs. He now has a guy who got the, I guess, LaFleur bump a little bit, so maybe that helps bring people in, like the Sean McVay bump.
You know who really got the LaFleur bump? The reporting from Albert Breer was Matt LaFleur's influence was big in terms of their research on hiring Robert Saleh, because LaFleur was in that Tennessee building too, and they talked to him a ton in the months leading up.
And they were like, also, by the way, how is that contract going?
Right. And it is funny because I'm just thinking, like, yeah, Matt LaFleur is happy to hurt one of his NFC rivals and get his buddy a job. It's just all messy.
With Hafley, you hear about EQ with players. You hear about infrastructural vision, which is really important when you're trying to rebuild something or build something out a little bit better. You hear about attention to detail, great teaching, explanatory nature. So I think, we'll have to see, obviously, but John Eric Sullivan being as process oriented in that organization as he was for so many years, to me, gives this Hafley hire a little bit of a bump toward the positive.
Definitely, because there's a familiarity between those two, and that relationship is just so vital. And so you're going in kind of knowing that that's a strong relationship. That's massive. Hafley's resume is interesting. He had those BC jobs. He mostly was in the NFL as a defensive backs coach. He was on some crazy staffs. He started on the Greg Schiano Tampa Bay Buccaneers staff. Okay. Real ones know that was a wild ride. He was on the Kyle Shanahan Brown staff, coaching up our friend Andrew Hawkins. Although Hawkins was on offense, but I'm just saying they were there on that staff. So was Mike McDaniel.
That was a wild one too.
He was on Chip Kelly's 49ers staff, and then stayed for Kyle Shanahan's the next year. The Packers were really reliant on turnovers. It's interesting to think about their free agents, because sometimes they could jump over. On defense, Quay Walker and Igbari are both free agents, so maybe they will hop over to Miami. And then Malik Willis, a guy he got to be in the same building with, has been kind of connected even before this all happened to the Dolphins as a possible replacement. So that would be interesting. Let's get to New York, where John Harbaugh had his introductory presser.
And he didn't say, the Bills job just opened.
No, he did not. And you know what?
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, we're swearing a lot today, Bob. We're giving you guys, and Eric, we're giving you guys some work here.
Let's actually listen to John Harbaugh answer a question of when he heard from his original mentor in the NFL, Andy Reid.
Andy's a man of few words, and his 4 words to me were, "Change can be good." That's what he said. Change can be good, and he was excited. He's fired up for us. He's a good friend, and we'll try to do. You know what? How about we do this? How about we deal that right now? We'll sign up for that deal right now. What he did in Kansas City, let's do that.
I watched this entire press conference.
What he's having.
Joe Thomas brand steaks.
Yes.
Hall of Fame beef.
Just send him Patrick Mahomes. He did talk very glowingly about his quarterback, Jackson Dart, and said he had done a lot of research. He said his dad even was watching all the Giants tape and was noting how they really controlled the line of scrimmage, he thought, on both sides of the ball, and noted how good the offensive line was, which I think was a good note from Papa Harbaugh there, because their offensive line was quite underrated last year. And I thought the stagecraft of the press conference was fascinating. Joe Schoen starts the press conference. Okay. So it's usually ownership. Now, John Mara, who's the controlling owner, along with Steve Tisch, but he's the the face of it. Has a cancer battle right now, and so that clearly is part of it. His brother Chris Mara was really involved in this whole search, and he spoke to the media eventually afterwards and said he's been doing a lot. But it was really interesting to have Joe Schoen up there introducing John Harbaugh. And then, if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see the pictures that they take afterwards. Usually, again, it's with ownership. And they made sure to have Joe Schoen smiling up there, the GM, with John Harbaugh.
Yeah, they look alike, too.
And look at, if you're just doing, a little, they're both holding the helmet. Now, who's holding more of the helmet is my question.
I think it's Joe Schoen, but that's because he needs to, because John knows he's really holding the juice in the organization. It took a minute, but eventually John Harbaugh was asked about the structure of him now reporting to ownership directly instead of Joe Schoen, and ultimately John Harbaugh has the final say on personnel and big football matters.
To me, it's really not that important in the big picture, in the big scheme of things. I think it's kind of overblown just a little bit in terms of how it works, but the main thing is that it works, and that we work together. That's what matters. So that's kind of what I was used to, and it felt like a good way to kind of start off. And I think Mr. Mara was happy about that. It seemed like it made sense, and I'm just happy. But I don't think it really matters. I think we're all going to work together, and I promise you, we all report to the boss, right?
I just love him saying it doesn't really matter when extremely credible reporters, including Ian O'Connor at The Athletic, has it down that John Harbaugh himself sent a shrug emoji to Ian O'Connor saying, "Are you still sure you're going to be the Giants head coach?" This is Saturday morning, over 48 hours after, more than that, after all the reporting that he was taking this job, with the basically primary, if not only problem that they had in terms of writing up the contract was that he didn't want to be reporting to Joe Schoen. So I just find it fascinating that he's up there. Oh, that's funny you bring that up. That's not an issue at all. And then they have Joe Schoen talk to the media afterward and said the thing. He's like,
it's just a piece of paper.
It doesn't matter at all. It almost completely blew up this $100 million deal, but hey, it's fine.
Yeah, and the biggest move the Giants have made in years, and perceived belle of the coaching ball, and we'll see how it goes, because if that's how things are starting, which is everything's fine, we're all having fun here, we're all easy peasy, I'm breezy up at the podium kind of a thing, but then there's these little moments, a little comment at the media, little things, there's been some rumbling, some concerns. It's going to be interesting to watch, and things are going great now. They had a big win in New York, but what happens when it's actually time to shift power dynamics? Because mark my words, it will be, maybe sooner than later, soon time to shift power dynamics there, and then we'll really see.
I think between him and Joe Schoen, they know, like, he's just running everything. And Elliot Wolfe, I think, is a good comp in New England, where, like, he's still doing press conferences and stuff, but Mike Vrabel is in charge of everything, and Elliot Wolfe is one of the people working for him. And that's basically, I think, what's happening. And John Harbaugh's the man.
And I think that John Harbaugh has kind of earned that, too.
Fair.
Just with his tenure in the league. Like,
dude knows ball.
Of course, you don't want a brand new first-time head coach that maybe hasn't even called plays or anything like that before coming in and then having, like, full roster control. It almost feels like that's too much. But for an established head coach that has done this time and time again, that has to be a stipulation, because if they have someone that they were not brought in with, and then it's an arranged marriage, that seems like it is trouble.
In any of these overhang GM scenarios, something has to give if the GM is keeping their job and a real deal head coach, and I hate this term, but like an alpha head coach comes in, like something has to give on the GM front. You saw it just happen successfully, might I add, in Chicago. And you saw it happen almost 10 years ago in Los Angeles. And like this is one of these things where that dynamic is so much more important than these guys are up there talking about in public, right? And that's what I say, like John Harbaugh, the criticism that I think is fair for Joe Schoen, and he's taken a lot of heat, certainly. I think the fair criticism is that he has, yes, drafted talent, and he's drafted guys with really good traits, but all together as a collective, like it just doesn't work. There has to be an actual identity for a team to not just go out and get guys who are perceived to be really, really good football players, but how does that person actually fit into a larger plan of your roster? And that's where John Harbaugh, I think, is really quite gifted as a team builder, and where he doesn't bring you an edge offensively or defensively, and maybe not even special teams anymore at this point. At the same time, he does understand how to build an actual team and how to identify qualities.
I mean, he better bring you an edge.
An actual team. And that's where I think, he better be in charge of that.
Right. And I don't think this is going to be a situation. They were showing the Sean McDermott introductory press conference photos this week because it was so long ago. He's so much younger. Now since.
Where did you find the photos that you used for the podcast share? Because you had
I had a good Sean McDermott. I don't know. I just remember seeing him in like a model shot, and I was just like, "That's funny." I'm
burned in your memory.
I'm gonna save and keep it for someday.
9 years.
No, it was from
the long game.
last offseason. It paid off in a big way. If you want to see Sean styling. But I completely now forget whatever I was going to talk about.
Okay, so hold on.
I was thinking about Sean McDermott.
Just going to say that John Harbaugh and Jackson Dart, that feels like a nice marriage between the two of them because of the way that John Harbaugh just is, the way, like, he seems like a Northeast kind of guy. And I don't know if that means anything to anyone else, but it's just like someone who is going to be totally straight with you and frank with you. And I feel like that's what Jackson Dart kind of needs. And I just think it's going to be a really good match.
And I think he'll have some fun maybe mixing it up with the media. It might not be like fun might be the wrong word, but you could tell Harbaugh right off the bat was like, this is different. Like, this is very New York. And, he's talking about like just how many people are there and how much he wanted this job. I believe that. I actually do believe that this was the job he wanted all along. He says his agent really wanted it too. And it was just funny when he's asked about Shane and he used the word, I expect our relationship to be phenomenally great. It's going to be incredible. That's what he said. It's like, okay. Like
this is when you talk about like the Northeastern thing. This is the thing where I laugh because there's always that thing with him and Lamar where he wouldn't seem to know like what the injury was or what was going on with the quarterback or whatever, or they were on different pages. So it's like, oh, we don't talk about that, like we're gonna, everything's fine, we don't talk about that at the family dinner table. Like everything's fine. Yeah. This is like very much that vibe.
Let's take a quick break. And by the way, I was thinking of that Bills press conference where it's very similarly, they had a GM help introduce Sean McDermott back then. Doug Whaley was the name. And at the time, they were insisting he was going to be a big part of their future. And they fired him in May. I don't think that's going to happen with Joe Shane.
Oh, God.
I think he's going to be there. They wouldn't have gone so hard in the paint just to fire him in May. But it is the John Harbaugh show in New York, and it's going to be fascinating to watch. And I agree with Harbaugh and his dad's assessment that there's a lot of good football players there. Mm-hmm. This does not need to be a rebuild. He kind of set the expectations that they can win right away. Let's take a break, wrap up the news, and then we'll do our off-season look-aheads and recommendation station. Back on NFL Daily, few odds and ends here. Chiefs expected to hire Eric Bienemy as offensive coordinator, which is an interesting return. He was the guy during their best offensive days. I found it interesting too that they kind of just let Matt Nagy walk. That's a little worrisome, I guess, if you were thinking about hiring Matt Nagy, but I'm not sure if he's going to be a finalist anywhere else. But you hear a lot of players talk about like how important Eric Bienemy was to them in terms of like the details and kind of being maybe, if Andy Reid is like the nice guy, that he's maybe like the strict teacher, and that combination helped make them great. And so Reid wanted Eric Bienemy back.
He's back. Yeah. When I first saw it, I had to double check to make sure that I was actually I had to reread it a couple times. I'm like, oh, well, that's great. But it is very interesting letting go of Matt Nagy, especially with the history and the relationships that were already in place with Andy Reid and Matt Nagy. They spent a lot of time together. So for Andy Reid to then bring back Eric Bienemy. The players absolutely love this guy, and that's when they experience their success. So listen, let's run it back. Let's see if this works.
Yeah, I think it went really far too under the radar that he was in working with Ben Johnson, the architect of Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift's resurgence, and helped build out that offensive line with the very meticulous vision that Ben Johnson had for it. And we give Ben Johnson rightfully a lot of credit, but Eric Bienemy was the engine behind a lot of that too.
And Travis Kelce, I remember him speaking about Eric Bienemy is the one that's addressing the team for the most part and is on the details. And I heard more than a few people speculate during the season. It's they really miss him because they are not a disciplined football team now. And maybe bringing back Bienemy helps. The Lions made their offensive coordinator hire. Drew Petzig as offensive coordinator. I heard secondhand that this didn't get a lot of appreciation on the social, which surprises me because I feel like Petzig is kind of a favorite of the X's and O's set. I think he did a pretty good job in Arizona until last season. Cardinals fans feel less so about it, but there's some connective tissue between him and the offensive line coach, Hank Fraley. And so you already know going in, they have a relationship that can work out well together.
I absolutely love this because, and I've been, you guys know, maybe to a fault, I've been really high on Drew Petzig all year for multiple years at this point. This is a dream come true for the play action passing game that Jared Goff loves to run, that they really want to continue and revitalize there in Detroit. This is a dream come true in partnership with that offensive line, getting them back to playing at their standard. And this is a dream come true for the tight ends group as well, for Sam Laporta to continue to emerge as one of the better tight ends in the league. We saw what Drew Petzig did when he funneled this offense through Trey McBride. I think that you also look at Amon-Ra St. Brown as that F player as well, that is sort of that hybrid in the Kubiak system where you are basically both a receiver and a tight end, and you're playing predominantly out of the slot. You're looking at the offense funneling through that player as well as the tight end position. I could not love this more as a fit for the Lions. And I think subtly one of the more underrated elements to this hire is Dan Campbell does not have to be as in the weeds in this offense when you have somebody as experienced as Drew Petzig coming in to run the show. You're not going to have to worry about the things that were very clearly a strain on Dan Campbell when he took over play calling from John Morton by the end of the year. I think this is a phenomenal hire.
And Petzig, he was, I'm excited to see him coach against the Bears and Ben Johnson, considering they were together at Boston College, and Petzig was a groomsman in Ben Johnson's wedding.
Look at this.
What a connection.
Going deep
I know.
on the research. I appreciate it. I'm checking out the efficiency, the DVOA rankings of Petzig in Arizona. 21st his first year, 11th second year, and then last year fell off a bit of a cliff.
Well, yeah, and you have to think too, basically their first four running backs got hurt. They had a little bit of a mess at times on the interior of that offensive line. Two different quarterbacks, one who clearly fit better in that offense than the other, even though Kyler is a much more talented quarterback. And then a real struggle trying to get all the receivers into the mix the way that I think Cardinals fans really wanted Marvin Harrison Jr. to have this offense funneled through him. There was sort of a push and pull. Your most productive player is your tight end. So the Drew Petzig out of the Kubiak system is going to run the offense through the tight end. It just wasn't congruous, in my opinion.
Yeah, it didn't work this last season, and he's landing in a perfect spot. Actually, I wouldn't say perfect because the offensive line needs a lot of work and the expectations are sky high. So he will get blamed if things don't go well. Zach Charbonnet, unfortunately, did not have a good week in terms of the information on his knee. If you remember, he left the divisional round game against the 49ers with a knee injury that after the game, Mike McDonald said he didn't believe was too serious, but it turned out to be a torn ACL. And so he is now out, obviously, for the rest of the playoffs, and Kenneth Walker Jr. will have to take more of the load. And so we'll talk more about that on tomorrow's show, previewing the NFC Championship. Just some odds and ends before we move on to these look-aheads. The Falcons have kept Jeff Ulbrich as their defensive coordinator. That was rumored, but that's good to see. And they also are hiring Bill Callahan as their offensive line coach. Again, that's rumored. That we brought that up previously, but that is happening. Jay Glazer, I thought it was interesting, said publicly that Mike Tomlins is done with coaching. He's not going back.
Really?
And I feel like Jay Glazer knows. I mean, you never know. Mike Tomlin could always change his mind. But it also seems like Mike Tomlin's not. If I was going to believe that someone's not going to change his mind, it would be Mike Tomlin. So maybe bon voyage.
I think that it would be a really cool thing for Jay Glazer to get a TV teammate in Mike Tomlin and have the highest possible contract possible for Mike Tomlin, his friend, his longtime friend, and they're super close. So yes, he would know. And then have it be so. Leave a little wiggle room if Mike Tomlin gets the itch again. Hey, who could blame him, right?
He's getting that money regardless, and they'll have to put it into the contract, obviously, if he leaves. And who knows? I assume that's the type of job he wants. Maybe the Amazon job.
I don't know. You can't tell me around Thanksgiving that he's in a broadcast booth or he's in a broadcast studio that at Thanksgiving he's not really wanting to be on a field somewhere.
Or I can do that better.
Yeah,
maybe
because there's going to be a lot of those this year.
Everyone's different. He seemed like a coach that was pretty burnt out from it, and
Fair.
Some look, he's made enough money to live on. It depends on what he's going to value for the rest of his life, because he's a relatively young man, at least in terms of coaching, early 50s. The Saints re-signed Julian Blackmon, who's a safety for them, solid veteran. The only reason I point that out is I think that's the first veteran re-signing of the offseason. So congratulations to the Saints. I just all right,
have some free time.
We're in the mix. They have had a few weeks off. We have some finalists for different jobs: Mike McDaniel, Jim Schwartz, Nate Scheelhaus, Todd Monken, Jesse Minter in Cleveland. The Ravens finalists, and this is not a final list necessarily, but in terms of their second interviews, it includes two of what were believed to be the known favorites, Anthony Weaver and Jesse Minter so far. Also includes the Bills' offensive coordinator, at least until this week, Joe Brady. Joe Brady's also meeting with the Cardinals. So there's your little trip around the league. And right as we were taping, the Packers have released Trevon Diggs, opening up some cap space. So that was...
We hardly knew you.
I was going to say, what did you like best about the Trevon Diggs era in Green Bay? You know what? I actually went back and watched his snaps of that first game because I was just curious. He had a good first game. He actually, I think he got that I'm out of Dallas, I'm trying harder now thing that happens sometimes. Let's talk about the 49ers and Bears. I mentioned I wanted to just do a little bit of a look ahead for the teams that are out. If you're a 49ers fan, Colleen, and you're not, but
thank you for starting there. That's
you
really
did once,
so nice of you.
You did once take improv classes.
I did.
And
one
so
time.
this is
10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes, I will. Yes, and
you didn't stick with it.
I don't have a whole lot of free time
to
do classes. Well, so the problem is it's 6 weeks or so, 8 weeks, and you can't miss any of the classes uninterrupted. So with our schedule, traveling, the only time to ever do it is right after the combine. So
and then didn't Bonetta tried to get you back into there, or maybe it was Tamposi, what,
Yeah, I signed up for a stand-up class, and then the fires broke out.
Bailed.
They canceled it, and that was my only window. So who knows?
Okay.
Maybe I'll come back around.
Okay, I don't know why I'm bringing this all up. Oh yeah, because you're trying to put yourself in the mind of a 49ers fan. And how do you feel? Because you overachieved this year.
Annoyed.
You overachieved, but you're in this division with these two behemoths. What do you want to see this offseason from the 49ers?
Some wide receivers.
Okay.
Would love that. Don't really know where they stand with Juwan Jennings, who is a free agent. He led the team with touchdowns. Obviously, the Brandon Ayuk situation is a situation that is done. It seems that divorce is happening. So they just don't have any depth there. They need I know that Christian McCaffrey is a all over the place type guy, but they
You could crank him up to 700 touches next year.
Yeah, why not? He's fine. But they definitely need something there, something more than what they have in general. And then the other big question is who's going to be their DC after Robert Saleh left.
Yeah, to me, their biggest need is going to be pass rush. It's going to be continuing to juice up this defense. They've got a couple of young guys. They just didn't have enough players. Nick Bosa being hurt didn't help. I don't think it's as simple as getting some of these players back from injury. I think this is actually the year. If I'm looking at this particular team building model that they're in, which other teams have done over the years, Tampa Bay being one of them, as well as the Los Angeles Rams, this year now, after overachieving expectations, becomes when you start to make some difficult decisions with some of the quote unquote weight bearing walls on your roster. Who are you less confident could come back fully from injury? Who are you less confident? Who do you think it will still contribute in a meaningful way as a weight bearing wall within this infrastructure? And so I think that those are some big questions, obviously, to answer there.
I thought about that too, and then I looked, and look, they have $30 million in cap space, which is pretty good. And none of the guys that you would think, like, would they already think about moving on from Nick Bosa? It's not going to help them financially at all, so there's no reason to. Trent Williams, he's going to be allowed to play as long as he wants to continue
and he
playing.
wants to come back.
Yeah.
That was one big point that I wanted to make. Yeah.
That's good. And so those are two. That's not going to happen. Kittle, they're going to wait for him to come back from his Achilles. It's not like they want to move off from him. Same thing with, like, Fred Warner is the only one that you could actually get like a little bit of cap space, but you don't need it. So there's no reason to me to move on. They're in a good space to push because there's not actually a lot of dead weight on the roster.
This probably will not be popular with 49ers fans, but I do feel that Nick Bosa would be the one that you consider possibly.
Like, why, if he's not going to save you any money?
I'm so glad you asked, because I was just about to say that, Greg, because of draft picks. You need draft picks, and you need draft picks to continue to build out and develop areas of your roster that you eventually will need to replace. Because I think with this quarterback and with the offense that they have when healthy, especially if Trent Williams, and it sounds like he will come back, you really could do this all over again, but you need better players on defense. You need more on defense. A healthy Fred Warner will help enormously with that. But without Robert Saleh, you are overhauling now an entire identity of that front structure. And you started doing it a little bit last year with what they were doing in the draft. And now you're going to continue doing that. So you think about, and this is not like reporting, this is just what smart teams do. You think about who is going to give me the maximum return to replace, if it is inevitable, who can I make it immediate with and get a maximum return on said player right now to help build out positions of need. It does not sound logical to take a weakness and say, hey, we're going to move on from our best player along this defensive line and in this pass rush. No, it does not sound good when I say it in this phase of the calendar, but when it comes time to actually restructure and like look ahead to what this identity of this young defense has to be, that is something you look at. You're not going to get a retirement like the Rams got from Aaron Donald.
They need to beef up their offensive line for sure. That's like a number one priority for them.
They always kind of skate by on coaching, and it just didn't work this year. Like, they didn't run the ball well, and even the pass pro wasn't great. With Bosa, unless they changed his contract, he's coming off an injury, that would probably be like something where they have to show his wares in training camp. And by then, like, you're getting a draft pick that's going to be the same for 2026. They would take a pretty big cap hit to have to trade him before free agency or anything like that. And he's coming off such a serious injury. That makes it tough to do, but you never know. Not impossible. I think fans that feel like they're like way behind the Seahawks and Rams, like, things change. Jourdan Jennings, probably bon voyage, but you never know. Maybe they'll bring him back. And yes, I'm glad you brought up Brandon Ayuk, because they can void the guarantees in his contract, so he is expected to be released. You were in Chicago for that game. What was that like?
Oh my gosh,
the Loveland touchdown, that moment.
Yeah. So the 4th and 4. Everybody is sort of thinking, like, nobody has left their seats, right, in the press box. And normally you go down, even in a close game like that, you go down like a minute early because you're going to get stuck in the elevator and then you might miss post-game press conferences. That entire media out there, they're so used to this happening, these late game drives and these comebacks, that nobody left their seats. And when that moment happened, it was the absolute, like, I thought the atmosphere was going to blow off the planet, like how loud it was, and just snow flying everywhere and icicles flying off people's beards and hats. And like, it was craziness. It was just the coolest thing. I texted Gregg all caps. I can't believe I just got to see that in person. It's one of those things you never forget. Overall with the Bears, like, again, you want to talk about overachieving expectations. I do think you saw where they are going to want to continue to build. And a lot of that's on defense, because Dennis Allen used his defensive backs pretty much to their maximum capacity to manufacture every single positive play, minus one or two from the interior defensive line, in the pass rush and all of that. And I think that it really shone a light on where the Bears need the most help, and that is up front along their defensive line.
I was just going to say, I'm still thinking about how you described the moment in the stadium with that touchdown. And to me, it almost feels like in Pulp Fiction, where like the shot of adrenaline.
Oh, yeah.
That's what that mimicked.
It was crazy.
It felt like that watching it.
And it was, what was so cool too was, and shout out to Bears fans, because like, that whole city, I love being in a football town. And it was this combination of, it was freezing cold and snowing, and everybody's still out in the street, like walking to this game at this iconic stadium, and the lake is frozen, and you can see it out the window of the back of the press box, how the lake is frozen over,
cool.
And the flags are blowing sideways, and the people gave Caleb Williams and the Bears a standing ovation, even in a loss at the end. And it was a beautiful moment, and I love it. And it was so fun being there through the playoffs, because like I said, I love being in a football town. And even when I'm like out eating dinner at a restaurant down the street and the Bills game is on, like this fan base, it was packed with Bears fans, and they were living and dying with every snap. Wasn't even their team. They knew Matt Prater's field goal percentage on the season, on his career. Like I freaking love being in a football town during that time of year, and they knew that the moment was there, and they met it. And then, on the other side, when Matthew Stafford hits that play, I know it was a first down, but when he hits that throw to Devontae Adams, just the oxygen, just like it was like a black hole. It just imploded, like an absence of sound, an absence of noise. And it's like the creepiest feeling
vacuum
ever. And it was, the whole thing was incredible. I was lucky. I was very lucky to be there. It's why you do it. It's why you do it.
It's a classic. And, like that moment is going to be remembered. I was trying to think of an analog of like great moments in a losing effort that are remembered forever. And we were struggling with it. Like Matt Ryan's throw to Julio Jones in the Super Bowl against the Patriots should have been remembered, but people actually don't remember that one that much because there's still a lot of time left in the game. It's not a scoring play. It's not really that close to the Caleb's play to Cole Kmet. And if it's crazy because you think about Kmet and DJ Moore, who both caught Kmet catches the classic touchdown, and DJ Moore catches one earlier. And when I'm going through their situation in terms of the cap, I'm thinking, well, those are two of the likely cuts. DJ Moore, I think, is a really strong candidate to get traded. He's due $24 million guaranteed next year. His production doesn't match that. His role is easily kind of replaced by Luther Burden, and they can save $16 million by trading him. And I think he would have a market. Kmet is a little trickier. Like, you might want to keep Kmet, you might not. But he got that contract from a previous regime. And at least in terms of Ben Johnson wasn't there. I know Ryan Poles was there. DJ Moore,
49ers.
Impacted that last interception by Caleb Williams. And it was interesting to listen to Caleb on Monday on that misfire.
Being able to just get on the same page in those moments. And it's small things like that show up in those moments that, you may not have talked about, but being on the same page or talking about it, maybe week 1 or week 6, it shows up in week 18 or whatever week we're in.
I think that was kind of damning. He also said he hadn't really talked about it with DJ Moore yet. They're $4 million over the cap. So they are not on a knife's edge or anything, but they got to make some decisions because they have some really key free agents. The best part of their defense by far was the secondary, and most of it is eligible for free agency. Kevin Byard, who had a great rejuvenated season. Jaquan Brisker at safety. Nashawn Wright, who had a great year turning the ball over. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who somehow played 70% of the snaps for them this year. I didn't realize that in the end. And so that's 4 key players in the secondary that they'll try to bring back.
Right. And then on the other side of the ball, they'll have to replace Eric Bienemy. And what at this point then?
And replace DJ Moore. They'll need more weapons too. Yeah. And Cole Kmet if they got rid of him.
Right. That's true. I mean, yeah, and you just mentioned the safeties. The safety room is like totally thin, especially if they aren't able to retain both of those guys. But I'm just wondering, like, where do you then put the goals for Caleb Williams next season? What are the benchmarks that you're looking for? Because this whole year one with Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams was such a success, then now where like the expectations are so high for them, and I love that for Chicago, but like what is fair? Where do you look for improvements?
Yeah, I like that question because it's a pretty impossible and yet exceedingly crucial thing for teams with a quarterback who's about to enter his 3rd season. And then that's when you're really starting to talk about, do we extend him early? Do we pick up the option? What are our next steps with this quarterback? And for me, it's like, I will never call the throws that he's able to make in these moments luck, because it takes skill. And I think it's like, oh my gosh, these lucky moments, these outliers, like, no, that takes so much skill. But the thing with Caleb Williams is that you have to like even out the rest of it without losing the outliers that are positive. And it's a really impossible needle to thread. But if anyone can do it, you saw their partnership grow over the season, and Caleb really seems bought in to the process with Ben Johnson. He's talked about that openly near the end of this season. You have to lift the floor with him, because for every insane, incredible moment you have at the end of these games, you also have some of the reasons why they are having to make insane, incredible, come from behind victories, and that being a multi-turnover game, certainly not all on Caleb at all, but that being a multi-turnover game, I think you have to just even out some of the middle ground here. You have to lift the floor of what he can do. Yeah,
he ends up throwing for 52% completion in the playoffs after being, dead last in the regular season. So I think it's just a down-to-down consistency, like figuring out the layups. But I do think the last 5-6 weeks of the season, he was a transformed quarterback in terms of his decision-making in general. And the 5 interceptions in the playoffs are pretty odd because, in 2 regular seasons, he was not making mistakes.
And I think that's where film really tells more of the story here, like you're implying, Greg, because it certainly wouldn't be on him. And he doesn't make negative plays. He doesn't take bad sacks. He avoids pressure. He was, I think, the least sacked player in the quarterback in the playoffs, and certainly followed suit from the regular season as well. So, I think it's just like he kind of said it right there in his press conference. Getting that communication and those details down early with everybody, including himself, we'll see how far they go this next year.
I feel great about our final quarterback island selections. Caleb, that play really, cemented Caleb. I think Trevor was ultimately a no-brainer. Brock Purdy, it ended in a tough fashion, but I think he did credit to the island. I don't think there's any updates to the island this year,
except for that one Jourdan Love fan who keeps posting at me, QB Island is a fraud.
Oh, no.
Well, Jourdan Love has
it's not.
Jourdan Love has a case, but ultimately you got to make some tough decisions. I think the only candidate to possibly make it change is if a surprising quarterback leads his team to a Super Bowl in the next couple of weeks, and that's Jarrett Stidham.
Let's go.
Recommendation station. Let's, before we go, Colleen, give us something that you've enjoyed listening to, reading, watching,
How about
whatever
a little bit
you want.
of both?
Okay.
Listening and reading.
Whoa.
Because many years ago, like maybe 15 years ago, I read this book called Getting Stoned with Savages by J. Martin Truce.
Of course he did.
And I just decided to hit the reset button and do audio form for it. So I just restarted last night the book, and it's such a fun book. It is like, it's basically a finding yourself type book, but it's done in a really fun, self-deprecating type way. And the main character is a guy who leaves this soul-crushing corporate job to go and live in the islands of Fiji. And it's just all of the craziness that ensues after that. It's super fun. I would highly recommend it. It's a great vacation book, too.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah.
I love
I feel like
So
I'm
did you read
really
his
high.
previous book?
That's a
What
drop.
was that? What was that, Colleen?
That was a drop.
What?
I
What'd you
feel
say,
like
Colleen?
I'm really high. Okay, not that I would know, but we were doing a bit when I said that about teams we were too high on or things that we were getting too high on in the offseason. I want ESPN to know that.
Not that she would know.
That was a great one.
yeah.
That book was written by a man whose previous book was The Sex Lives of Cannibals.
So
Gotta
yeah.
check that out.
Well, because the islands that they go to, Vanuatu, I don't know how to say it, but that's all I've ever said it. What is it? Vanuatu.
Oh, wow.
I think there was a history way back in the day of cannibalism. And so I think that's where that first book came from. But no, I highly recommend Getting Stoned with Savages.
Okay, let's do it. Jourdan, you're up.
You say with trepidation
No.
all across your face. No, I will not be helpful at all to this. What I could recommend to people who might be feeling overwhelmed right now or who might be feeling like it's all just a little too much or like they're very, very tired and would like to sleep somewhere else that is not an airplane, to go and find a nice patch of grass somewhere in the sun.
There's a lot
if
that's
you can,
not alive right now.
if you can, or like go to maybe like some sort of a park or something, or try to be warm somewhere, and or even like a heated seat in your car, like, and just sit there and deep breaths in and deep breaths out. And if you're lucky enough to be in grass, put your palms flat down on the grass, shut your eyes for a little bit, and just be there for just a second. That's what I would recommend.
Sit in the silence.
I like that recommendation. Patch of grass. Underrated and available
Go
in
touch
a lot
some
of places.
grass,
a
everybody.
different
It's
kind of
cold.
grass than what Colleen was referring
it's cold
to. here,
in
but
some areas, but that's
find
beautiful.
some grass and literally touch it.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's beautiful. It's Oscar season, so I try to run through as many of the candidates that I can.
Okay.
Although I still haven't seen Marty Supreme, which was like the one I've wanted to see the most. So I feel like this is an incomplete grade. But after seeing them all, I think I've landed on Sentimental Value as my favorite. I don't know if you guys have heard of that one. Joachim Trier's book about this family, like a famous movie director who has a strained relationship with his children and then wants to make a movie sort of about their lives involving one of his children who's an actress, Renata Rensva, I believe, is going to be nominated for like Best Actress and whatnot. But Sentimental Value would be the one that I would recommend. But No Other Choice was a lot of fun.
Okay.
Hamnet, I wouldn't say it was a lot of fun. I would recommend the book there more, but I thought it was really good. I do love me some Jessie Buckley, and she's, I think, the favorite for Best Actress. So that's another good one out there. But that was my pick.
Look at you.
Sentimental Value.
Yes. And
Sorry Babies on
if you're-
HBO Max. That was pretty good too.
I haven't seen a movie in like years.
I decided when my
if you're
family
not
was
as
go
cultured,
crazy.
Patch of Grass is always available.
Yeah, Patch of Grass.
Or an audiobook about getting stoned with savages.
Audiobooks are underrated. I am a reading addict, I would say. In most books I read now, I like read 75-80% of it, and I listen to about 15 to 20% of just when I'm on the go to like keep it going. And
It's nice when your eyes
a
hurt
nice little-
from like looking at screens and stuff all day. You just want to, someone read me a bedtime story.
I love that.
That's
Don't
a
let
drop.
him leave the building.
And yes, Hamnet's an amazing book.
Hamnet.
Yeah, it is.
Hamnet
It is
an
truly.
amazing book.
Yeah.
All right, let's say goodbye. We're going to be back on Wednesday for our big mega preview.
And just wait for next Tuesday.
Oh my gosh, Colleen has come up with
From the mind of
a
Colleen
game
Wolfe.
/ interactive experience
You guys will
for
be
all
involved.
the listeners. We will see you next Tuesday with that one.